So take advantage of those when you can. But I think that's part of why some of us out here, or all the guys out here for the most part, I don't know why we love it so much, but it's the grind of it. And
Rickie Fowler just dropped a decision that has the entire golf world buzzing. One almost no one had predicted on their 2025 bingo card. His new direction for 2025 reflects a shift toward a more family-focused, selective schedule, and many believe this move could reshape the final arc of his career. Golf fans have spent the early part of the year convincing themselves that Fowler was basically back. Not quite at his meteoric 2014 level. Not the Players' Championship clutch assassin, but something closer to the soft relaunch of a cult favorite show. He entered the season with flashes of brilliance, those addictive sparks that reminded everyone he still carried embers from his prime. A top 10 finish here, a top 15 at the Open where he marched across those ancient dunes like someone who remembered how to stun a crowd. His season kept teasing. Fowler wasn't lost, not really. He was drifting somewhere between past glories and the elusive promise of consistency.
But yeah, I mean, going through, plenty of tough years now. If you look over the last kind of 5-6 years, I've had plenty of highs and I've seen the lows. Yeah, I mean, the tough times definitely, make you appreciate when you are playing well and when golf can seem easy. You appreciate those because they're not going to last forever.
The problem was that golf, that drama-hungry beast, doesn't reward sparks. It rewards relentlessness. And relentlessness was no longer Rickie's game. Mid-season, he withdrew from the WM Phoenix Open, citing illness and exhaustion, the body's unsubtle reminder that time had shifted. The galleries that once roared now watched with something gentler, almost nostalgic. They weren't expecting dominance anymore. Just one more magical week. One more Sunday where he turned a golf course into mythology. Beneath the polite interviews and the calm glow of a father, too, something deeper was changing. A recalibration. Fowler wasn't chasing adrenaline now. He was chasing sustainability. His course management had matured. His schedule became cleaner. His travel more intentional. And his equipment tweaks shifted from mid-career panic to late-career optimization. New Cobra prototypes, fresh ball testing, and small acts of technical rebellion showed that he still wanted every drop of performance from a body no longer built for all gas, all orange intensity. The FedEx Cup standings reflected it too. A man climbing, but no longer sprinting. He wasn't among the elite top 20 cluster, but he had re-entered that familiar zone. The, oh yeah, Rickie's still dangerous tier. It was a liminal stage every former superstar reaches. The thin border between fading and reinventing. And beneath that steady exterior lived a tension the cameras adored. Fowler knew his legacy chapter was still unfinished. He just hadn't decided whether this was a comeback story or a swan song. The announcement he was about to drop would force everyone else to choose a side.
There's a lot of things that you want to achieve or want to accomplish, but kind of coming from where we've been struggling at times, kind of keeping the initial goals fairly simple or attainable and reachable to start out with, and those kind of start piling on as you knock one or two or three off. But yeah, there's bigger goals that are want to be, we want to take care of those, but we're still working on some of the low-hanging fruit to start with.
Then came the lost years, the dips, the slumps, the headlines that read like sympathetic obituaries for a talent that once burned neon. But golf never fully let Rickie Fowler go. And in his quiet, stubborn California way, he never stopped rewriting the narrative. His Rocket Mortgage win in 2023 reminded the world he still had chapters left. The competitive fire hadn't died. It had simply shifted behind fatherhood, maturity, and the weary wisdom earned from 1,000 press conferences asking, "What happened to you?" So when 2025 arrived, fans expected another dramatic, all-in resurgence. Instead, they got something much stranger, strategic minimalism. His major announcement wasn't surrender, it was calculus. Fowler chose to step away from the relentless weekly grind, abandoning the emotional and physical toll of chasing events just to stay relevant. He wasn't retiring, far from it, But he was opting for selective signature events, curated starts, and high-impact weeks rather than the old play-everything-and-survive approach. It was a shift usually reserved for aging legends or players with enough career capital to ignore the FedEx Cup race. And Rickie, both beloved and commercially magnetic, fit that mold perfectly. He could skip low-stakes weeks and still have tournament directors begging for his presence. He could say family first and still walk into any field as a marquee draw. The golf world spun it in every direction. Traditionalists complained that fewer starts meant fewer ranking opportunities. Business minds applauded the efficiency, and fans argued like a group project gone sideways. Some praised maturity and self-awareness. Others called it the beginning of the end. But everyone agreed on one thing. This wasn't a simple scheduling tweak. It was Rickie claiming ownership of the next version of himself. Whether his comeback was real or an illusion, the announcement forced the sport to view the man in orange not as a fading star, but as a recalibrated one. Behind the carefully crafted press releases and calm public demeanor lay the simpler truth. Rickie Fowler's world had shrunk in the best way possible. Marriage, fatherhood, and 2 kids by 2025 meant his life revolved less around tournaments and more around toys, family logistics, nap battles, and whatever mysterious galaxy toddlers inhabit. The former globetrotter now organized a schedule around preschool windows and family trips, and there was no scandal in it. Only the quiet shock of a superstar choosing to become human.
That's awesome, especially, we're able to travel with our crew. Being able to have my wife and little one with us. The only event that the little one, she didn't come with us to Scotland. That would have been a little bit of a trip, but so that was our first trip for Allison and I to be able to get away. Other than that, we've been traveling together and doing every event as a family. So very different from the past handful of years, but we're definitely having a good time with it.
Fatherhood had rewired Rickie Fowler. Losses stung less. Travel felt heavier, and long tournaments away from home carried emotional taxes he never paid in his 20s. His interviews softened, becoming reflective and almost poetic when he talked about Allison Stock and their children. The bold orange persona still showed up on Sundays, but off the course he had transformed into a man who preferred backyard afternoons over airport lounges. That shift wasn't weakness. It was the foundation of his entire 2025 pivot. The gossip ecosystem, starved for drama, latched onto subtler details. Curated Instagram posts, quiet equipment experimentation unveiled like personal rebellions, and whispers that he'd evolved into a behind-the-scenes force at Puma and Cobra, shaping apparel lines and gear drops that held more cultural weight than scoreboards. These weren't scandals. They were the moves of a man reclaiming his time. Fowler had reached a stage where influence paid more than mileage. A limited apparel capsule could fund a selective stretch of appearances. A gear collaboration could subsidize a lighter schedule. His relevance no longer depended on grinding through dozens of events. It depended on curation. And that's what made his announcement so narratively irresistible. It wasn't impulsive, nor was it the result of crisis. It was a man choosing life over grind while remaining commercially untouchable. That, paradoxically, became the anti-scandal scandal. Golf purists hated the implication. If Rickie could put family ahead of constant tournament play and still remain a draw, then the mythology of the tireless grinder, the hero playing through pain, illness, and fatigue, began to look outdated. That tension simmered beneath the surface and set the stage for what followed. The announcement finally landed in early to mid-2025, not with dramatic mic drop or a hint of defection, but with a calm declaration that ignited chaos. Rickie Fowler, patron saint of the week-to-week grinder, was done overloading his schedule. No more check-the-box events. No more empty mileage. He would target signature events, play fewer tournaments, and arrive at majors with fresher legs and clearer intention. The phrase ricocheted through media rooms like a retirement tease, though it was the opposite. Fowler wasn't stepping back. He was choosing a smarter chaos. Instead of 30-event marathons, he wanted surgical strikes, stretches where sponsors could maximize his star power and fans could see the best version of him rather than the worn-down version limping through forgettable Thursdays. Tournament directors reacted instantly because, of course, they did. Rickie Fowler wasn't just a golfer. He was an orange-clad economy unto himself. The memorial sent an invite. Travelers followed. Marquee events sharpened their sponsor exemption pens. Fully aware of what some analysts refuse to see, Rickie on a selective schedule still sold more tickets than half the top 20 players combined. Value wasn't always about rankings. It was about cultural gravity, and Fowler still had plenty. Fans split into ideological tribes. Nostalgists cheered, having watched him nearly burn out and fade between flashes of brilliance. To them, fewer events meant more magic. Purists seethed. Claiming fewer starts meant fewer FedEx Cup points, fewer reps, fewer chances to sharpen form. They accused him of dodging the grind and leaning too heavily on past stardom. But beneath all that noise was something simpler. Fowler repeatedly referenced his family, the emotional cost of the grind and the need to evolve. In a sport obsessed with tradition, honesty felt like a plot twist. Rickie had chosen evolution over expectation. Now the question lingered, would the selective chaos elevate him or expose the fragility of a carefully curated comeback? Quietly, while the public fixated on his schedule, industry insiders whisper about the true backbone of Fowler's shift: the business moves. Nothing in pro golf happens in isolation. Not gear changes, not apparel drops, not subtle brand transformations. Rickie Fowler hadn't just reduced the schedule. He had financially fortified it long before stepping up to the microphones.
A good golf course for me. I love the challenge that it kind of puts in front of you. Like you said, I've played well here quite a few times, and with a win. Doesn't feel like the win has been that long ago, but yeah, and with where I feel like the game has been and where I'm heading, I feel like I'm in a good spot and trending in the right direction. This is a place that you really can't let up. You have to be on top of it. There's not really many holes that are just, I wouldn't say gimmies or anything, but you have to stay on top of your stuff the whole time out here.
The first shift came through equipment. After ending his TaylorMade ball and glove arrangement, Rickie Fowler dove into testing prototypes like a scientist preparing for a moon launch. Cobra mini driver concepts appeared in practice. Titlice Pro V1S suddenly replaced old setups. A new glove surfaced. None of it hinted at an identity crisis. This was optimization. Micro adjustments crafted for a player who wanted to peak on specific weeks rather than survive 52 of them. In elite golf, 1 degree of loft or a few hundred RPM can determine whether a player makes a cut or ignites a weekend that breaks the internet. Then came the apparel empire. Puma, still his headline partner, leaned fully into Fowler mythology with limited capsule drops, crossover fashion lines, and collaborations that kept him culturally visible even when he wasn't swinging a club. These weren't just outfits. They were revenue engines built to sustain a selective schedule. He could play fewer events because the merch carried its own gravity, and then came the real power play: visibility monetization. By concentrating his appearances around high-stakes tournaments, Fowler offered sponsors fewer but far more intense windows. Instead of 30 lukewarm activations, brands could focus their budgets on 6 blockbuster weeks, where his presence guaranteed TV time. Content pushes, meet and greets, and behind-the-scenes videos that pull millions of views before audiences even realized they were being marketed to. A smaller schedule meant a bigger economic impact, and bigger checks. That's why no one in the business panicked. Beneath the family-focused narrative and the recalibrated mindset was something deeply strategic. A professional athlete transitioning from volume to influence. Fowler didn't need to be everywhere. He needed to be essential in fewer places. This was a future-proof version of Rickie Fowler, a competitor, consultant, collaborator, and brand architect who could extend his career without burning out. It wasn't just reinvention. It was longevity disguised as chaos. The announcement detonated a year's worth of speculation about his legacy. Suddenly, every golf conversation felt like an existential referendum. What would fewer starts mean for FedEx Cup standings? Would Ryder Cup captains see him as a competitor or a spiritual mascot? Was this the beginning of vice captain whispers that cling to charismatic veterans whose results are no longer guaranteed? The reaction splintered predictably. Tournament officials treated him like royalty. Scarcity only increases value. Fans spiraled into nostalgia, replaying highlights from 2014 in peak orange swagger, like they were decoding ancient scripture. Critics pounced on every miscut, every stat dip, every withdrawal as evidence he was running out of time. But some analysts refused to moralize. They saw something modern. Fowler was simply embracing the curated schedule blueprint already used by the game's elite. Rory, Scotty, the aging legends. The Ryder Cup discourse turned theatrical. Some pundits floated him as a sleeper pick. Others insisted he was shifting into a leadership phase, the dad energy veteran whose wisdom mattered more than his points. Fans debated whether his schedule meant renewed ambition or gentle acceptance. The truth, as always with Fowler, lived somewhere in the in-between. A man refusing to disappear quietly, but also refusing to sacrifice his life to golf's grind. And so 2025 became a roulette wheel. Every event he chose carried weight. Every appearance felt symbolic. Every moment was interpreted as proof of either a brilliant reinvention or the careful glide into the final chapter of a beloved career. But the narrative wasn't tragedy. It wasn't decline. It was evolution. Rickie Fowler didn't choose chaos. He chose a curated rise. Whether it succeed depends on a handful of big weeks he's circled on the calendar. And if even one of those weeks catches fire, the entire story flips overnight. His announcement wasn't goodbye. It was a gamble, a reshuffling of priorities, a bet that precision could outduel exhaustion. Now the season waits. The fans wait. The narrative waits. Because all it takes is one Sunday to rewrite everything.